Thank you for joining us as we discuss the Parsha for this week, Yitro, or Jethro. We hope you enjoy it, and now we join our discussion in progress. Shabbat Shalom. The Parsha for this week is Yitro, and it's from Exodus 18th chapter, 1st verse, to Exodus 20th chapter, 23rd verse. V'yishma Yitro Kohen Midian Chatan Moshe et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe u'lish Israel amo ki chotzi Adonai et Yisrael memitzrayim. Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel his people, how the Lord had brought Israel out from Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after she had been sent home.
Psalm 81, starting verse 8. Hear, O my people, and I will admonish you. O Israel, I will listen. O Israel, if you will listen to me, there shall be no foreign gods among you, nor shall you worship any foreign gods. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. But my people will not heed my voice, and Israel would have none of me. So I gave them over to their own stubborn hearts, to walk in their own counsel. Oh, that my people would listen to me, that Israel would walk in my ways. I would soon subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their adversaries. The haters of the Lord will pretend submission of him, but their fate will endure forever. He will not feed them also. He will have fed them also with the finest of wheat and the honey from the rock. I would have satisfied you. This is the word of the Lord. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. May your kingdom come. May your will be done. We give thanks to you, Lord, for this day, this Shabbat day of rest, Lord, that you have given us to rest and to remember your great acts and great kindness, that you have done it for your nation Israel. For you have delivered them from slavery into freedom and delivered them to a place of worship, and you taught them how to worship. And you demonstrated to them, Lord, your great power and might, and your care for them, and how they are to look for you for everything. And we look to Christ as well, Lord, who has paid the price for us. And we acknowledge his great sacrifice for us, and has freed us as well. We are both freed this day. And we both acknowledge that freedom, and we rest in it, and we worship you, and call upon you, Lord, to remain in our presence, and welcome you in our presence as you have welcomed us in yours. Great is thy name, Lord, and great is thy faithfulness in all the earth. Blessed be your holy name. In the name of the Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem means ha. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives us bread from the earth.
Don't make me laugh. for that with the Torah.
Oh, thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Berei pri hagafen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. It's a very important portion this week. Very important. So we should have a lot. The Lord will show us a lot, I'm convinced. I said the Lord will show us a lot.
Indeed.
Okay, well, y'all go ahead on and I'll start. There are, I'm going to count the sections. The first section is called Foes and Friends, and it's from Exodus 18 to 21 through 27. The next part is called At Sinai, and that's from Exodus 19, 1 through 25. The next part is called the Decalogue, the general introduction through to the first three commandments, Exodus 20, verses 1 through 7. The next part of the Decalogue is the 5th through the 10th commandments, I skipped one. The Decalogue, the Sabbath day. Lord, I don't want to forget that one. Exodus 20th chapter, 8 through 11 verses. Then the Decalogue, the 5th through the 10th commandments. Exodus 20, verses 12 through 18. And then the last part, laws of worship. Exodus 20, verses 9 through 23. And so we'll start with foes and friends. And it's Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, and how the Lord had brought Israel out from Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after she had been sent home, and her 2 sons, of whom one was named Gershom. That is to say, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. And the other was named Eleazar, meaning the God of my father was my help, and he delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought Moses' son, wife, to him in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. Moses then recounted to his father-in-law everything that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptian for Israel's sake, all of the hardships that had befallen them on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced over the kindness that the Lord had shown Israel when he delivered them from the Egyptians. Blessed be the Lord, Jethro said, who delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, and who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, yes, by the results of their very schemes against the people. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought an offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to partake of the meal before God with Moses' father-in-law. Next day Moses sat as magistrate among the people, and while the people stood about Moses from morning until evening. But when Moses' father-in-law saw how much he had to do for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing to the people? Why do you act alone, while all the people stand about you from morning until evening?" And Moses replied to his father-in-law, "It is because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, it comes before me, and I decide between a man and his neighbor, and I make known the laws and teachings of God." But Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing you are doing is not right. You will surely wear yourself out, and these people as well, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel, and God be with you. You represent the people before God. You bring the disputes before God, and enjoin upon them the laws and the teachings, and make known to them the way they are to go, and the practices they are to follow. And you shall also seek out from among all the people capable men who fear God, trustworthy men who spurn ill-gotten gain. Set these over them as chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and let them judge the people at all times. Have them bring every major dispute to you, but let them decide every minor dispute between themselves. Make it easier for yourself, and let them share the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, you will be able to bear up, and all these people too will go home unwearied." Moses heeded his father-in-law and did as he had said. Moses chose capable men out of all Israel and appointed them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And they judged the people at all times. The difficult matters they would bring to Moses, and all the minor matters they would decide themselves. Then Moses bade his father-in-law farewell, and he went his way to his own land. Now this is a doorway and like an introduction into God revealing to Moses how he desires to be addressed, or how he desires to be approached, and all of the things that God told Moses is what will make Israel able to approach God. Because obviously God is saying, I have some rules and regulations, just to put it in a simple speech. I'm God, and there are certain things that please me, and there are certain things that don't. And he's going to tell Moses what pleases him, so that the Israelites will start out on a good foot. And so I think this is such an important part, simply because of the interaction between Jethro and Moses. And before I go on, I'll just open it up and see if you all have anything to say about this particular passage that we just heard.
Well, his father-in-law gave him like a blueprint on how to do it instead of overburdening himself. More crazy.
That's a good word, a blueprint. That's a good word. And Barry, let's just open that up, because I know a lot of times when John would talk to the students at the university, and he would talk to them about God, and a lot of them didn't believe in God. And so he said, and he would point to a building. He said, well, who do you think built that building? Well, obviously, in order to build a building, first there has to be a blueprint. Or so, well, we'll just keep it simple. There has to be a blueprint. And so you just said that's a wonderful thing. In order to be able to manage God's people, there has to be a blueprint. So, or some kind of system.
Something to follow.
Exactly.
Step.
Exactly. That is very good. Very good. I think that says it all. But you probably said it all. There has to be a blueprint in the way we worship God also. And that's what God is going to give to Moses, that blueprint on how to worship him. Because just like if someone is building a building, you don't start out you don't go get the hammer and the wood, because you don't know how much wood, or if you need a hammer, you may need a jackhammer. And so it's very important that a blueprint be given on how you're to build this building.
Start off with less. You need a good foundation.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. This is exactly what God is doing, Barry. That's so good. That he's building this foundation for Israel and how to approach him. That is good. You summed it up. You summed it up. John?
I would say, well, going along with the theme of building a building, or laying a foundation, I said it was setting up a justice system.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need a blueprint. You still need a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what kind of people were picked to set up this foundation? Well, they were people who feared God. They were of a spiritual nature,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily people who had some type of judicial background, who knew the law,
Mm-hmm.
but the type of people that were picked to build the system, and the type of people Moses were to select,
Mm-hmm.
were people who feared God, honest people,
Mm-hmm.
trustworthy people, not greedy folks.
Yes.
Meaning, not necessarily, as I said before, not necessarily people who were familiar with law, but spiritual men. Now, I think there's probably more in this chapter we'll talk about, but just to continue on that theme of building, we're building a building, but if you're building a house, would take a different type of blueprint than if you're building, let's say, an office building, or if you're building a condo. So they're building a judicial system.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I did ask, I didn't look at it far enough. Jethro, was he Jewish? I shouldn't say Jewish, because Jewish doesn't even enter in here.
Mm-hmm. He was a priest of Midian, it says.
Right, but he was a descendant of Abraham or not?
Hold on, this used to be a title. Jethro was known by his famous son-in-law. It says he's a priest of Midian. And it says, Midianite priest, and I'm not sure who the Midianites were. I should have looked that up.
No.
But hold on, let's see if you tell me.
It may have been.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. We can look that up later.
Mm-hmm.
So like spiritual men, the other thing too, what did I say about Moses? I said he was,
He was building a justice system.
something else. Moses was his father-in-law wanted to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
So Moses was a listener. He was a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
And he took spiritual advice, and I'm sure he prayed about it too. I prayed about it to God, but Moses was a good listener, and maybe just knew who to listen to, because everyone wants to give you advice.
Yes.
But he was a good listener, and it sounded like good, sound religious, spiritual advice, and
Yes.
he listened to his father-in-law. I'm sure his father-in-law was someone he trusted as well, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, bringing up who Jethro was, now that you brought that up, I put from the 11th verse, I wrote down, I noted what Jethro said after Moses had recounted what God had done for Israel. And so Jethro says, now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. Yes, by the result of their very schemes against the people. And I wrote a note under that, and I said, since Jethro has made that affirmation, does that count as a conversion for him? Is he saying he believes in that God who brought Israel out from Egypt? So maybe it doesn't matter what he was. He's now making that affirmation that believing in that God that Moses believes in. And another thing, if I could bring this in, this is something we have been talking about for a long time, and there is in verse 12, Jethro brings the burnt offerings and sacrifices for God. Then it says all the elders partake of the meal before God with Moses. Again, we've noticed from Genesis on, whenever there's a covenant, whenever there's an agreement, there's always a meal afterwards. And it doesn't matter if it's a good or bad covenant. Remember with Joseph's brothers, after Joseph's brother threw him into the pit, what do? They sit down and eat a meal. So this is something that we need to pay special attention to as we go throughout here, that this covenant or agreement has been made, and they eat the meal to confirm this agreement. And so that's, again, one of the reasons why the Shabbat meal is so important. We are weekly reaffirming the covenant that God made with Israel, and also that God reiterated from the time that He created the earth, the universe, the world. We're reaffirming that this seventh day, and we're partaking of a meal that again reaffirms the covenant. So this is this is not just any meal. We take it at the time that God set on the seventh day, and we're eating this meal in affirmation of the covenant that God made, that the seventh day is holy. And so this is a special meal. And I put another note I put down. I said, we are partaking a meal with the divine. And we'll see later on how that works out, because when God does, well, I won't bring that out now, but God, we'll see where God actually is going to be partaking of a meal with the elders again, with Israel. So this is a very important thing. This is nothing to be taken lightly. This is what I want to say. All right, so once Jethro suggests the blueprint, like Barry said, to Moses, and Moses implements that, and then he and his father bid farewell, and that's the end of this first section. Now we go, unless you have something else, we'll go to the next part, which is the revelation and commandment at Sinai, Exodus 19, verses 1 through 25. We're gonna, as I like to use a musical term called, it's crescendo, when things are building up. We are building up to a most important part here, where God is going to give the very blueprint of how He wants to be approached. And that's important. That is so important. So we're getting to that point here. So verse 19, 1 through 25, On the third new moon after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt, on that very day they entered the wilderness of Sinai. Having journeyed from Rephidim, they entered the wilderness of Sinai and encamped in the wilderness. Israel encamped there in front of the mountain, and Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Israel, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to me. Now then, if you will obey me faithfully, and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine, but you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel. Moses came and summoned the elders of the people, and put before them all the words that the Lord had commanded him. And all the people answered as one, saying, All that the Lord has spoken we will do. And Moses brought back the people's words to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, I will come to you in a thick cloud, in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you forever after. Then Moses reported the people's words to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, Go to the people and warn them to stay pure today and tomorrow. Let them wash their clothes. Let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people on the Mount Sinai. You shall set bounds for the people round about, saying, Beware of going up to the mountain or touching the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall be either stoned or shot. Beast or man, he shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they may go up on the mountain. Moses came down from the mountain to the people, and warned the people to stay pure. And they washed their clothes, and he said to the people, Be ready for the third day, do not go near a woman. On the third day as morning dawned, there was thunder and lightning, and a dense cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud blast of the horn. And all the people who were in the camp trembled. Moses led the people out of the camp toward God, and they took their places at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke, for the Lord had come down upon it in fire. The smoke rose like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled violently. The blare of the horn grew louder and louder. As Moses spoke, God answered him in the thunder. The Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. And the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And the Lord said to Moses, Go down, warn the people not to break through to the Lord to gaze, lest many of them perish. The priests also who come near the Lord must purify themselves, lest the Lord break out against them. But Moses said to the Lord, The people cannot come up to the Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, Set bounds about the mountain and sanctify it. So the Lord said to him, Go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests or the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Now here we are. This is so momentous, where the God of the universe is actively involved here. He's not far away. He says he's going to come down and he's going to be among the people. And so again, he's giving the blueprint of what people need to do in order to approach him or not approach him. So this is, again, if we use the example of building a building, if we're building a building, we want to know exactly what we need to do, lest we build something that's not going to hold up. So God is giving these instructions of what the people need to do. And he's basically saying, this is what I like. And so if this is what I like, and as long, he said to Moses to tell Israel, as long as you obey me faithfully and keep my commandments, you shall be my treasured possession among all the people. Indeed, all the earth is mine. So one of the first things I wrote in my note is that Moses went up to see God. Now, in Hebrew, it's Elohim. But then when it says God called to Moses, or the Lord called to Moses from the mountain, it's the unutterable name, the Yud He Vav He, that it's used here. And so this is his holy name that is being used, so we know that this is a momentous occasion. So I'll open it up for your thoughts.
Now, this is verse 19, right?
Yes, no, chapter 19.
Chapter 19.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I underlined a couple of things. One was all that the Lord said we will do. But that the first visit, Moses came down with some commandments, but we don't know what those commandments were.
Mm-mm.
But the people did agree. They talked with the elders, and
Mhm.
maybe they filtered the word to their other folks, and they would do. Another part that I cannot figure out, where the people were supposed to come up on the mountain, but God told them not to come up on the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And one commentator talked about, was interesting, if someone touched the mountain, if God was there, if someone touched the mountain, it would make them holy. Now, what you would do with a holy person, the way it's written, if anyone touched the mountain, if it's true they became holy, what they would do was to stone the person.
Mhm.
You weren't supposed to touch him. I guess holiness just can't live in a corrupt society.
Mm-hmm.
I found that, I don't know, somewhat interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned something also. One other thing, this seemed to have been added. Earlier, God said just to sanctify yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and let them wash their clothes, consecrate them today, and tomorrow let them wash their clothes. Moses added a part later on that you to keep, not to go near your wife,
Mm-hmm.
and one commentator will say one thing, one will say another. I think the one would say that I guess you should focus on God and not be distracted. I didn't like that one too much.
Mm-hmm.
The other one had to do with what they were going to do was being involved in the worship of God.
Mm-hmm.
And part of some of the pagan practices is when they worship their gods is to perform sexual acts and stuff like that.
What a good point you make. That's right.
So
That's right.
he used to say, well, I don't want you doing any sexual acts
Right.
in my form of worship.
Right.
And that seemed
Wow,
to be the
that's-
most plausible to me
Yes.
than the other type. Because, God said be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
So it's not the act itself or not being distracted, I don't think. But just don't wanting sexuality incorporated in any worship of God.
Right. And if, from what I know of the pagan practices, and I don't know, and I probably don't want to know all of the
Yeah.
stuff, that most of the worship of the pagan gods involves sexual immorality
Mhm.
and involved really nasty
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff you would just cringe at. The little bit I did hear about in my one of my Bibles, it has a list of pagan gods and the things that they used to do in worshiping their god.
Yeah.
And so you're right. You're probably right that the pagans were using sex as a worship to God, and
Right.
God said, no, that's not, I'm not that God. That's not who I am. I think that was very good, John. I like that. I wrote down, if I could, that a reoccurring thing that God, he's constantly reminding Israel. He says, now if you will obey me, if you just will obey me, many times if you will obey me, I will blot out your enemies. If you would just obey me. And he's saying, or follow the blueprint, Barry. I just love that. If you just follow this blueprint I laid out, you don't have anything to worry about. And we can adopt that for us. If we follow God's blueprint, then we're pleasing to God. We don't have anything to worry about. And so that's why we're diligently studying this blueprint that God gave us. Because if God gave it, he didn't take it back. He didn't say, I'm going to modify this blueprint right here. This is his blueprint he gave and how he wants to be approached. And you better follow it or else. I also wrote, again, in the reoccurring thing where God says Israel will be, if they obey him, there will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And he said, these are the words you are to speak to Israel. And one of the commentaries I had said that God is preparing Israel as an army, yes, but he's also preparing them to minister to the rest of humanity. Because Israel has been the keeper of the blueprint. They have been the keeper of the Torah. You want to know about the Torah, you go to Israel. They may not, they may have a lot of extraneous things that may not be necessarily biblical, but in terms of interpreting the Torah, knowing the Hebrew, Israel is the keeper of the blueprint, and they can tell us, and in that sense they are ministering to us. They are telling us what the blueprint says, what God says do. And that's why, basically, God himself is going to give Moses the blueprint to give to Israel. And that's why this is such a wonderful Shabbat. And that we're going to hear that blueprint again. And we're going to see what pleases God. Another thing I wrote too was Moses summons the elders. And he puts this before him. Now, I thought this was interesting. Moses is basically a Messiah. We called him a Messiah before, or almost like an attorney. Because God says something to Moses. Moses goes back to the people, conveys it. Then Moses goes back and tells God what the people say. And it's this back and forth that I find interesting. That the God of the universe, that Moses is, again, being this go-between, being this Messiah in the sense that he's delivering the blueprint of God. And then they're going back and forth. And I love this, where he puts the words before him, and in one of the commentaries I read said that he put it before the people so that they could refuse or reject it. Accept it or reject it. And then that's when all of the people, a lot of times I had heard some of the rabbis talking, they said the people, before they heard what it was, even what the rules of the blueprint was, they said, we will do it. We will do it. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, in some of the translations, I think the King James, it says, we will do, and then we will hear it, which is interesting. So, and again, it's the Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh that's used, the unutterable name of God, all that the Lord, the Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh has spoken, we will do. Then we will hear it, which is very interesting. Mm-hmm. Then it says Moses prepares, he's preparing again the people to meet God. He's bringing back God's word, saying, this is what you do, this is how I want you to approach me, so that the people will be prepared to meet him. It says, stay pure today and tomorrow, and as you said, the sexual abstinence, so that they know that this is not some pagan god who wants some orgy, who wants some thing that he didn't intend for the human body to do. No, this is a pure God and a holy God. So no, this meeting with God will not involve any sexual immorality, nothing to do with sex. And then the blast of the horn, the shofar, it gets louder and louder. Can you imagine that? And it says God, and it says the Yud He Vav He, the unutterable name of God, comes down in fire. Can you imagine that? And we're sitting here and it's all seems so, we're not hearing anything, but can you imagine Israel seeing that? Can you imagine hearing that? Can you, I would imagine they were trembling. It said the mountains was trembling, and here it says the people were trembling, one of the commentators. And the horn grew louder and louder and louder. And so this horn grew louder because the God of the universe is getting ready to approach them. Can you imagine that the God of the universe is coming now? When we talk about, in this instance, he's coming down on this mountain, and he is kind of far away from them, but the God of the universe is coming into proximity of the people, coming close. A God that you think, when you think of God, you think of someone who's so far away, but his ultimate coming was in the person of Jesus or Yeshua. Can you imagine that he came even closer, that he was able to walk around with people and touch people? But here, I think that's a foretaste of what God was going to do when he sent his Messiah to come down among the people. There, if they touch the mountain, say you can't touch the mountain, or what happens? You'll be destroyed.
Or the commentary, or is you'd be thrown or shot with arrows.
You'll be shot. Yeah. But this is the first, this is his first coming in terms of giving the blueprint. But it's also a foreshadow of what he does when he sends Messiah Jesus. It's a foreshadow, and it's just awesome. Okay, we're going to take a break right here, and then we will get to the blueprint being given. Barry, I think that is just so magnificent that you said that. We will see God giving a blueprint of how he wants to be approached. And I must say, we have to remember, it's like when we tell people, when people want to reject his words and said, oh, God has changed it. No, when you build a building, if you change the blueprint, you change it while you're building the building. You don't change it after it's done. And so right here is a blueprint of how God is giving, and this blueprint is eternal. So he didn't change much of nothing. This is something that the bedrock of who Israel is laid in this foundation. And so we're going to be privy to that conversation that Moses had with God. And it's going to be, perhaps we will hear those horns blast, because this is God's giving of something so sacred, of how to approach him. A lot of times, and we might add, we don't know anything about a lot of our ancestors worshipped the gods of nature and things like that. And a lot of time they didn't know, they were always afraid of those gods because they didn't know what pleased those gods. And a lot of times they would be sacrificing to these gods trying to please them. And so here is this God saying, you don't have to wonder or guess what pleases me. I'm going to give you the blueprint of what pleases me. And so that you don't have to be wondering, you think you have to sacrifice a virgin to please the god, the volcano god, or which they were doing. Some of those cultures were doing. I heard that in Polynesia, whatever, they would sacrifice these versions in these volcanoes to please this god, to appease these gods, because they never knew what pleased the gods, so they were always afraid. But can you imagine that the God of the universe is going to say, no, you don't have to be afraid. If you will obey, again, like he told Israel, if you will obey me and do this, then all is well. Okay, we'll take a break. Unless you have something to say while I'm doing this.
Oh, what else did I put down here? The word covenant was used as a singular, not plural. So it's just one covenant here that's coming. It may encompass a number of parts, but it's still just one covenant. Mm-hmm. And also, the Jews were to be, I'm going to use the word Jews at this time, to be that chosen people, but they were chosen for a particular purpose. Not chosen because of anything special, but they were chosen for a purpose. I'm sure it would be to make known the greatness and the goodness of God and the grace of God. There's one other thing in this verse. The part that almost was similar when it said that God said, I have beared thee out on eagle's wings.
Yes, I love it.
And
that's a beautiful part.
Yeah. But who carries when an eagle flies and it carries its babies, is it the male eagle or the female eagle? It's probably the female eagle.
Oh.
So God is representing himself as a female, which kind of corresponds as well to this the saying Jesus said over Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Saying, Jerusalem, how long I would have been wanting to gather you under my wings, but you were not willing. And it was the hen is the one that gathers the chicks. So the bearing out on eagle's wing is something, it's not something that we do, but something that God shows how he's involved in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's his response. Well, the covenant required a response, and they did respond. But bearing them out on eagle's wing had, I think, to do with God's deliverance, and not something we do. And it's portrayed as a female who nurtures its young and cares for its young.
That was very good.
About eagle's wings. I think that's all I've got. There's probably something else, and hold on a second. Oh, I did write one other comment. When they were to wash themselves, it was a symbol of internal cleansing. They were to wash the outside, but it was also a symbolic of internal cleansing. God's not all that concerned about the washing of the outside. He's concerned about the inside, but we can't wash the inside. Only God does that.
Very. That was very good. Mm-hmm. Very good. I thought that was I had written that on my note too about being on eagle's wings.
Mm-hmm.
When they brought out the Jews from let's see where they brought them from. The Yemeni Jews. They when in 1949, and they said many people they believe that their journey was on eagle's wings. Because they believe that to be a fulfillment of the Bible statement. of God.
Out of Yemeni in 49?
49. And they, when they were bringing out the Jews from many places, they would always name it, give a biblical name. Now I can't remember what some of the names are, but they would always name it that. And they said when they were bringing the Ethiopian Jews out, because a lot of those people had never been on a plane or anything like that before. So can you imagine how they felt when they were getting on a plane for the first time and they knew nothing of planes? Can you imagine that they would, and they knew the scriptures, that they would think they were being brought out on eagle's wings? that here it is, this metal bird that's taking you to the Holy Land. So anyway, that's why I love that. A friend of mine, we were having Bible study, and she said, God invented, or allowed to be invented, the airplane to fulfill the scripture, so that it could. It wasn't for the sake of the rest of the world. It's for the sake of bringing his people back from the lands where he had scattered them. And if you were the most recent one, probably like with the Ethiopians and the Russian Jews were coming about that same time too. But a lot of the Russians probably were more educated than the Ethiopians. Ethiopians were tribal people, and they were coming from, just maybe small towns, and maybe the only way they had seen an airplane is flying overhead. And to see this being fulfilled, of course, they studied the Torah and they know the words. And so can you imagine when they put them in this metal plane to take them back? How, I mean, that just gives me chills right now. That God would be so merciful to do this, and He's fulfilling His promise by doing so. We're going to take a little break. I'm not going to go on because the next part is so important, and I want to give you a chance to eat. First 3 commandments, and each of these sections are very short. And so I think I'm going to attempt to read it in Hebrew and then the English, because they're very short. And I want to read it in the Hebrew, and I ask the Holy Spirit to help me, because it's show you how majestic and how important this is, because we're talking about the God of the universe giving His blueprint to Israel, His peculiar people, His set apart people, His unique people, and He had given him a blueprint of how He wants to be worshipped, or how He wants to be approached. And it's so important that God Himself is going to come down. It says God Himself came down in the fire. And for God Himself to come into time and space, it's very important. It's like a king. It's like if we use a earthly analogy, the Queen of England. When you see her go different places or come to visit different places, I mean, they think it's a big deal, and I mean, everybody makes a big deal of it just for the Queen of England. Can you imagine how much more the God of the universe? And so I will read the Hebrew and I will read the English. וידבר אלוקים את כל הדברים האלה לאמור. אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אשר הוצאתך מארץ מצרים בבית עבדים, לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחריהם על פני. לא תעשה לך פסל וכל תמונה אשר בשמיים ממעל ואשר בארץ מתחת ואשר במים מתחת לארץ. לא תשתחווה לכם ולא תעבדם, כי אנוכי אדוני י"ט אלוהיך אל קנה הקד און אבות על בפנים על 30 ועל 40 לא שונא ועשה חסד ל2,000 ואחווי ולשמרי מצוותיי. לא תעשה את שם י"ה אלוהיך לסווה כי לא ינקה כאדוני את אשר ישא את שמו לסווה. God spoke all these words, saying, I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods beside me. You shall not make for yourself a sculptured image, or any likeness of what is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am an impassioned God, visiting the guilt of the fathers upon the children, upon the third and the fourth generations of those who reject me, but showing kindness to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not swear falsely by the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not clear one who swears falsely by his name. This is cannot say how important this is. And God is saying what pleases him. And he says one of the things I know that he says, Anoki Yudhe Vavhe. And it means I, and that Yudhe Vavhe is his unutterable name, his of who he is. And he says that's who he is. And he says in verse 4, he doesn't want any sculptured image made of him or any likeness of what you think he is in the heavens, or what you think it is, the heavens above or the earth beneath, or the waters under the earth. He doesn't want any kind of image made of him, for him, about him. He doesn't like that. That's not who he is. That's those other gods. Those are the pagan gods who want all of that. And he says, you shall not bow down to them or serve them. If you make those images and claim that they're from him, you shall not bow down. He says, because he is an impassioned God. He doesn't, that's not how he wants to be worshipped. So any kind of imagery that you make and you say it's the God of the universe, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and you worship that before it, whatever it is, it doesn't please him. He doesn't want it. That's what he's saying. I don't want those things. I don't want you to do that. And
because some people think it's like boasting or something.
Well, surely it's if you make it with your own hands, how can you claim that it's from God? It's almost like you're making your own God. If you make an idol, we think of, he says statue. You could make a stone statue and bow before it, which a lot of people do. Well, you made a statue. Can it move?
So they're claiming that's God.
It's not God.
Something they just created.
Yes, that they created, and that's it. It is pagan. It has nothing to do with the God of the universe. And he's clearly saying, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't bow down before it. And it could be a stone statue. It could be, I'll use it, everybody understands this, money. When you worship money that you refuse to acknowledge him on the seventh day and say, no, I'm not going to work. But if you say, well, no, I'm just going to go ahead and work. I'm not going to, follow this day. You're worshiping money. You're not worshiping God. Or it could be a car. God, I want a Mercedes Benz. And you let it interfere with your worship of Him to the point where you do start actually bowing down before it. We think of statues and things like that, which people do, which they did in the Bible a couple of times where they it was a god called Dagon, and I forgot what story it is, where they go and Dagon is bowed down. Dagon is bowed down before the God of the universe because God pushed it down. People were worshiping these statues. The Egyptians worshiping statues. You made the statue. How can it be God if you made it? You made it with your own hands, and you give it God-like properties when you made it. You're not God. How can something you made then be God? How? But the God of the universe is saying here, doesn't please me. Don't do it. It doesn't please me. I'm not like the pagan gods. Then it says, again, about His name. You shall not swear falsely by the name of the Lord your God. Don't use His name falsely. You hear, you'll hear it on TV a lot, and they use almost Jesus' name as a profanity now. Almost, if you listen to some of the programs, you'll hear them, and they say, well, I can't think of a good example right now, but they'll say, oh Jesus Christ, or something like that. It's a profanity. It's a profanity. And but God here in these few verses, the first few verses now, He's saying, and you would imagine the first verses are very important. He says, I am the Lord your God. No sculptured image. Don't bow down before it. It doesn't please me. Anything y'all like to add?
Well, I like the first, is that in verse 1? Yeah, no, verse 2. It says, I am the Lord your God. Well, I am the Lord your God, and the thing that kind of stands out, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So God is a God of action.
Yes.
He's a God that delivers, or He's a God that sets free, but He acts on behalf, well, actually, I'm going to say His people, I guess. Maybe they're His people now. But He acted, and what did they do to be delivered out of Egypt? Absolutely nothing. It was an act of grace.
Yes.
So He's a God of action, and He acts on behalf of His people through grace.
Yes.
And
you're right. God of action is, and that goes along with the make no sculptured image, because a sculpture cannot act.
yeah, right.
A sculpture, it does nothing. It is inanimate.
Yeah.
It is an inanimate object that can't do anything other than take up your time and your money.
Yeah.
But the God of the universe,
Well, it deceives too.
yes. And the God of the universe is saying, no. I don't need that kind of thing. I don't need you to worship me in that sense. No, don't do it. Doesn't please me. And you're creating a false God, is what you're doing. It's something you created with your own hands. It's not me. It's not gonna take action. And so don't do it. Doesn't please me.
Yeah, I guess you say, well, God says, I delivered these things, won't deliver you.
No.
Yeah.
No, nothing else did deliver. Yes, nothing else delivered. They may have cried out to all the gods of the Egyptians, but they were still in slavery.
They were still in Egypt, yeah.
Until they cried out to the God of the universe, who we can't see. And that's probably in our humanness, we want to see something. We want to touch it.
Proof.
Yes. But can you imagine the faith that it takes to believe in a God so big that he has to be careful? And I'm saying this in a facetious way. He has to be careful just how he moves, because just any action that he does can move things so quickly. Because he is a God of action. He is the God of the universe who can do anything. He is so big and so awesome. He cannot be contained within a statue. Oh, he's so awesome and so big. Now, who do we want? Do we want a God who can be contained in a statue? But yeah, but he did not. But I will say now, he did come down in the fire and everything. He did he said he came down, but he didn't come down he came down in an awesome manner. It's not like a statue is so inanimate, it doesn't move anything, but he came in the fire, and the fire moves, a fire burns, a fire can destroy, a fire can purify, a fire can do all these things. And so God comes in this. Can you imagine? You see the flame in the candle here, that it is at the same time, it is, seems like it's not doing anything. It's consuming, but also that it can do many things. Many things. So here we go with the introduction of God. And we need to reintroduce ourselves to him this way. We need to find out, now, what pleases you, God? And he's saying this Decalogue, he's saying this is what pleases me. So we're going on to something that a lot of people ignore. They ignore it, even though I want to get it right, it's the fourth commandment. And I'll read it in the Hebrew again with the majesty, and I pray that I'm reading it correctly. I'll put my glasses on. And this is from Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. And it says, Zohar et Yom HaShabbat lekadasho, sheshet yamin ta'avod, ve'asita kol milachtacha. Ve'yom HaShavi'i Shabbat le'Adonai Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh Elohecha lo te'aseh kol malacha ata avnecha uvtecha avdecha ve'amartecha uvhamtecha ve'garcha asher bish'arecha ki sheshet yamin Ose Adonai et hameshim ve'et haaretz et hayam ve'et kol asher bam ve'yanach ve'yom hashavi'i al ken berech Adonai et yom hashabbat ve'yekadshahu. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or your female slave, or your cattle, or the stranger who is within your settlements. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth and sea and all that is in them, and he rested on the Sabbath day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Now how much more clear can he be? He reiterates. He doesn't say this is something new, because he reiterates that he's telling them to remember it, because in 6 days he made heaven and earth. This is what he said back in Genesis. I created the heaven and earth, and he created the Shabbat. So it's nothing new. He just reiterates that this is still important to me. Keeping the Sabbath is acceptance of the sovereignty of God.
Verse 7. in Exodus, what about the Sabbath?
It's remember the Sabbath. It's Exodus 20th chapter 8th verse. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy.
Is it 8th verse?
8th verse.
No, yeah, well, 8 and 9. I guess.
And that's how much clearer can you get? How you cannot get any clearer. God has not changed it from the beginning of creation. He has hollowed this day out. It has not changed. God did not change the blueprint, and He's reiterating it. And perhaps He's reiterating it to Israel because why? They were slaves, and as slaves, what? They probably worked 7 days a week. They probably were not observing the Shabbat. Why? Because they were not able to. They were not given that opportunity. So He's reminding them, yes, remember the Sabbath day. Yes, I still want you to observe it. You've been enslaved for 400 some odd years. You've not been able to observe the Shabbat like I wanted you to. But remember it. Yes, observe the Shabbat. Any other ideas?
The only other thing I had, they were about learning how to live in a relationship with God and with man. So these laws teach us how to live in relationship.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, John. It's a relationship that we want to cultivate with God. And God is saying, if you want to cultivate a relationship with me, this is what I like. I like this. It's the same as cultivating a relationship with a husband or wife. You said, your husband or wife says, I do like this. I like when you buy me flowers on Shabbat. I like it when you take me out to dinner once a month. Now, those are things you probably could do. If you could do that and you want to please that person, husband or wife, you would do that. Especially as they're saying, this is the God of the universe saying, this is what pleases me. If you want a relationship with me, do these things. This is what He's saying. He's given the blueprint, like Barry said. You want a relationship? Here's how you have a relationship with me. Shabbat. Guard the Shabbat. Observe the Shabbat, the seventh day. Because I've sanctified it. Nothing's changed. I'm helping you to remember it because you've been enslaved. 7 days a week you've been enslaved. And as a slave, like you always said, John, as a slave, you can't observe the Shabbat. But we're not slaves anymore. We are free. And that's why we're observing the Shabbat. If we were slaves, we couldn't observe the Shabbat. And I mean slaves in a more sense than being indentured to someone. Being a slave to sin. When you're a slave to sin, you don't know about what pleases God. But if you know what pleases Him, then you're going to do these things because you want a relationship with Him. You want to be so close to Him and know what. As a matter of fact, if you want a relationship with someone, when a man is courting a woman, oh, you better believe he's going to do everything he can to please her because he wants a relationship with her. And so if we want a relationship with God, we need to remember what He likes and then do them. Because we can't make up our own rules and think that they're going to please God. No. Our rules won't work. He's saying this is what I want you to do. This is what pleases me. And the Shabbat is a main source. And the Jewish people in the commentary, and I've heard this so many times, and the Jewish people of Israel says, more than Israel has guarded the Shabbat. And in Hebrew, it's guard. It says, it started out Zocher, which means to remember, but it may not be in this section, maybe in another part of the Torah. It tells them to shomer, to guard the Shabbat. And so it says more than Israel has guarded the Shabbat has guarded Israel. Because in their keeping of the Shabbat, of doing what God says, what did God say? If you obey all these things, then I got your back covered. If you just obey me, you don't have to worry about your enemies. He says, and God said, how I long to gather you under my wings if you would just obey me, and I will take care of that. Enemies, I can wipe them out with a blast from my nostrils. Just obey me. And the Shabbat is an integral part of that. And how I pray that the rest of people who believe in Messiah Jesus will accept that this, instead of being a burden, it's a door opening in knowing how to please and have a relationship with the God of the universe. And again, this is the Shabbat meal that we are partaking of is not, again, we are acknowledging the covenant that God made, acknowledging it and sealing it every time we eat this meal, every time we eat of the bread. And we, just like Jesus said, remember, by eating the bread and drinking the wine, you're acknowledging the covenant that his blood forged for us. We're acknowledging that in this meal we eat, that covenant that was forged back at Sinai was sealed when Messiah Yeshua came and died, and his blood put a whole new thing on it. Okay, now we'll go to the next part, which is the Decalogue for the 5th and the 10th to the 10th commandments. And that's Exodus 20, 12 through 18. And I won't read the Hebrew, but I will read. Honor your father and your mother, that you may long endure on the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female slave, or his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. All the people witnessed the thunder and the lightning, the blare of the horn and the mountain smoking, and when the people saw it, they fell back and stood at a distance. You speak to us, they said to Moses, and we will obey, but let not God speak to us lest we die. Moses answered the people, be not afraid, for God has come only in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may be ever with you, so that you do not go astray. So the people remained at a distance, while Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. Here again, God is saying what it takes to have a relationship with him. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet your neighbors. And again, as John was saying, these commandments are how to have a relationship with God, but also how to have a relationship with other people. That's what this is. And as we go further into the Torah, what will happen is the Torah will expound on these. These are the basics. But then you'll find that there are many other laws that may fit underneath about that y'all should not covet your neighbor's wife. It'll tell you more precisely what that means. You should not commit adultery. It'll tell you more precisely what it means. And so here it is. Here God is saying, very simply, and he says to Israel, here's how to have a relationship with me. Do you want to approach the God of the universe? Do you want to be involved with him intimately? Then do these things. Not doing these things causes God to be wearied and causes him to be sorrowful, because he cannot be approached by someone who's sinful, because it would just burn him up. If you try to approach a holy God, you would be consumed. And that's one reason that we needed a Messiah. We needed someone to stand in our place. We need a covering for our sin, because we're all sinful creatures, and there's only one person who lived on this earth and was not sinful, and that was Jesus, Yeshua. And because he's saying, I will stand in front of you, because I'm sin free, and so I can stand before you and cover you so that your sins are covered and you can approach the Father. Because I live a sinless life, I can let you approach the Father. I'll be your covering. And so that's what this is all about. Because we know that no matter how we try and do all of these things that God has laid out. We are not going to do it because we are sinful. We can't take back all the sins we've committed. But we can say yes to the one who can cover our sins, so we can still have a relationship with God, because we won't be burnt up if we let our covering cover us as we go before the holy God. But to go before a holy God in a sinful state, we would be consumed. And that's what a lot of people forget in their zeal or whatever to want to know God and be God. Well, God can't just know you if you are in a sinful state. It's a detriment to you. It's almost like going to that mountain. If you try and touch his holiness in your sinful state, you will be consumed. You would die. You would die. But because of the sacrifice of Jesus, we're able to approach the God of the universe. We're able because he's standing in the gap. He's standing in our stead. He's paid the price of sin for us all if we accept that price that he paid. And so the people witnessed all of this thunder, and I can imagine that once they start hearing the horn blower and see, and that they fell back, and then they said, no, we don't want God to speak to us. Listen, you talk to us. We don't want him. But can you hear the God of the universe was willing to have a one-on-one personal relationship with them? But he was so awesome. I can imagine, so awesome it did scare them. It was so awesome that it did scare them. But what does Moses do? And they say, I love this. Moses went into the cloud. Didn't scare Moses. He went on up and saw God. But here are these people, and I really think maybe that's one, well, the way that Yeshua came, and the people have a hard time believing that God came in flesh. Well, God is God. He can do anything. But you're not going to be so, a lot of people, I think when John was doing his open air ministry at the university, and a lot of people were saying, why didn't God just come down and say he's God? Why didn't he just come on down? Well, he did. And the people told Moses, no, we don't want to talk to him, because it was so awesome. So what did he do? He came in human form.
Well, actually came, I was going to say, okay, he actually came twice.
Yes.
And they still didn't want to talk to him
No.
the second time.
Didn't want to talk to him. No. He came, and he did, like little students listen. Here he did come down. He was saying, tell Israel I'm coming down. He didn't say now, but he told them, prepare yourself, be clean. I'm coming down. And then this. Said, no, if you got the whole of just, and I'm sure he probably was a million light years away, is still doing all this. They probably said, no, you stay back there, Lord, because it was so awesome. Can you imagine that? And then the God of the universe comes in human form, and they still don't believe him. Still don't believe him. All right. And then we go to the last part of that closes us. It's in chapter 20, verses 19 through 23. And it says, Ve'yomer Adonai, that's the Yud Hey Vav Hey, to Moses. And the Lord said to Moses, thus shall you say to the Israelites, you yourselves saw that I spoke to you from the very heavens. With me, therefore, you shall not make any gods of silver, nor shall you make for yourselves any gods of gold. Make for me an altar of earth and sacrifice on it burnt offerings and your sacrifices of well-being, your sheep and your oxen, and in every place where I cause my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you. And if you make for me an altar of stone, do not build it of hewn stones, for by welding it your tool upon them, you have profaned them. Do not ascend my altar by steps, that your nakedness may not be exposed upon it. And again, probably that last part, because the priest had to wear certain things, garments, so they wouldn't, their nakedness wouldn't be exposed. That's probably, again, we're talking about what John was talking about, probably that in pagan religions, that's what it was all about. Debauchery, sexual debauchery. That's what you did when you supposedly worshiped the pagan god. You exposed more than your nakedness. So God said, no, I don't want that. Cover up. I'm telling you how I want to be worshipped. And I'm not a pagan god. So don't approach me like that. And so here this starts in this Torah, where God is saying, he simplifies it in the Ten Commandments. And he's saying this is what it takes to have a relationship. This is what you do to worship me. And this is what is happening. This is how God, and I can imagine too probably that God is reminding Israel of these things, because certainly they must have been known before. But they've been enslaved for 400 years. And so God is saying, okay, here it is. This is what I want you to do. And so we are going to a crescendo, because next week it's called Mishpatim, which are rules. Again, God is giving more rules. This is what pleases me. Again, rules, blueprints. This is what pleases me. This is how we can have a relationship. This is how we can forge a nation. This is how we can do this. So God, all of the Torah is basically rules of how God wants to be worshipped, how he wants to establish a relationship with man, or reestablish, because certainly after 400 years in slavery, their worship and maybe knowledge of God has been diminished. But he's reminding them and giving them these rules, especially as they get ready to enter into the land that he's promised them. Anything else before we close out?
I have nothing else.
And again, the Parsha for this coming week is called Mishpatim, and it's from Exodus 21, first verse, to Exodus 24, the 18th verse, and there are rules. Again, they're being spelled out. They're being the Ten Commandments is just an outline, and what we're getting now is the opening of the outline. It's the laws on property and moral behavior. Then it'll be laws on cultic ordinances, affirmation of the covenants. So again, and also, this next Mishpatim is very important, because God does something just really awesome. Really awesome. So you want to read that, especially in chapter 24, where God, like I said, affirms the covenant. And how do you affirm a covenant? Now, we just had that. How do we affirm a covenant?
Have dinner.
That's it. That's it. And he has dinner to affirm the covenant. That's what God's going to do. Have dinner with Israel, affirming the covenant. And so this is what we do every Shabbat, as a mere practice of what God intends to do. It said, they talk about the marriage supper of the Lamb. When God does, when the Lamb does come back, what we would do is reaffirm that covenant. And what would we do? We'd have a meal. We're going to have a meal. And so we enjoy this meal together as much as it, especially the bread. There's a whole, the Jewish people, a whole ritual behind making the bread. And it really got to me this week, because when I made the bread, it was really, they do a lot of praying when they make the bread, because it's important. Because again, remember we talked about last week that God blessed this day so that we'd have our food, like with the manna of the other days of the week, 1 through 5. If you got more manna than you needed, it spoiled. But here on the 6th day, they got twice as much, but it did not spoil the 7. So it is something holy about that, because the bread is symbolizing the manna. And so I just really think we have, that God is again reaffirming how he wants to have a relationship with us, what he likes in this relationship, what pleases him. And he's out to please. He again, he's not like pagan gods that keep people in the dark about what pleased them. He's saying, this is what pleased me. This is what pleased me. No, I do not want a virgin sacrificed to me. I do not want you to make a statue and kneel down to it 20 times a day. No, I don't. But I do want you to revere my name. I want you to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. I want you to honor your father and your mother. Do not commit adultery. Do not murder. Do not covet anything that is your neighbor's. Yes, I do want that. Yes. And so we have been reintroduced like the nation of Israel. Just in case we weren't brought up in these rules and what pleases God. Maybe we weren't, or maybe we weren't brought up in the whole thing. We've seen the blueprint. Like you said, Barry, we see his blueprint. And we've seen what pleases him. So we look forward to the next Shabbat. And I like to sing the Shabbat Shalom. We probably maybe going to sing more hymns, because in the after we had when we were growing up in the church, they said they had the communion, and it says, and then they sang a hymn, and then they went out. And so we're going to sing Shabbat Shalom as our hymn, and praise of the God of the universe, who we desire to have a relationship with. And that's why we're here meeting with him, confirming his covenant with this meal, a simple meal. We didn't do a lot to prepare, but we did prepare something so we could eat in front of him and with her, and the divine presence is with us. And so we just like to sing this hymn before we close out. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you for joining us for Yitro, and we look forward to Mishpatim, the Parsha for this coming week. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, and we'll see you next week.